Hey all, Jack Weigand here. We're going to do the scope mount installation for our standard Anaconda mount and our new mini mount in this video. What you'll notice is there are two different Anaconda Python mounts. We have a pre-2020 and a post-2020. They're two completely different scope mounts, although externally they look pretty much the same. Our new Anaconda Mini will fit on either revolver, but it's specifically tailored for the 2020 and newer revolvers. It looks good on the old Anacondas, but it's not fit as perfect because the two receivers are dimensionally different. What's required is removing the rear sight, and a lot of people tend to get a little nervous about doing that. It's very simple. The rear sight pivot pin, which we can see the hole right here, needs to be almost removed, and I say almost. It's a roll pin, and it sticks in the bore of the hole. We don't want to knock it completely out because we're going to tap it back in so the revolver looks nice with the new scope mount on it. The hole will be plugged. So we want to tap it out only enough to remove the rear sight. The rear sight pivot pin hole is 62 thousandths in diameter. So of course we want to use a punch that's a little smaller in diameter so we're not gouging the hole up. We want the punch to glide through and just pop the pin out. The pin will come out from either direction. What I normally do is look at both sides of the revolver. One of the sides generally has a little bit less pin exposed where you can get the punch started in the hole versus on top of the pin. And you'll see I also have this on a V-block where I can drive the pin down. So all we're doing is taking our punch and tapping the pin down. Like I said, we don't want to drive it completely out. It looks like when the pin is loose enough, and you'll see that that's about how much pin I have sticking out that side. From here, we simply remove the rear screw. You'll feel when it comes all the way out. There we go. We know that's loose. Here's what we have. We have the spring, which comes out of the pocket where the elevation screw screws into. We have our elevation screw and the sight. What I do is take these parts, put them back in the bag that the scope mount screws came in to keep all of that safe. Next, you'll see these two filler screws, and these are where the front two scope mount screws will go. We need to remove these. A suggestion here is if you haven't already invested in a good set of gunsmithing screwdrivers, it's a good time to do it because we want to keep these screws in pristine condition so we can put them back in at some time. That's what it looks like with the screws out. I put those screws in with our rear sight and spring and elevation screw to keep them safe also. The first thing we want to do with these three threaded holes, which would be this hole, and this hole, is I spray them out with carburetor cleaner or brake cleaner and then blow them out with compressed air. Once that's done, I'll take my thread locker and I'm going to put a drip in each of these holes, and I'm going to take my punch and go in and just wash it around in the threads a little bit to get it inside the threads. We have our three attaching screws, which are 640 by 7/16, and they take 11 inch-pounds of torque. What I do is clean these off with the same cleaners, same spray cleaner, and then air dry them again and put a drop of Loctite on each of the screws more towards the bottom. With the screws and the holes Loctited, we're going to take our scope mount, put it on here, slide it forward, You'll hear a little tick when it hits the front. As you can see here, I've tapped the pin back through, and basically I'm just using it as a hole filler. I've tightened the screws finger tight. Then what I do is tighten it to that point where it stops, and then another 1/8 of a turn for final tightness. And you can use the 11 inch-pounds of torque if you have a torque wrench. In all cases, make sure the screw does not protrude into the cylinder opening. If it does protrude, you'd have to trim it off. The Anaconda Mini is the exact same procedure, only it only uses one screw. The scope mount itself will cover one of the screw holes, and then you can see one in front of that. We would put the filler back in or leave it in if all you were doing was installing the Anaconda Mini. The Mini should not use any heavier sight than 3.5 ounces. Okay, there you have it. That's the Anaconda Mini, and that fits basically any Anaconda. It uses only the rear threaded hole. If you have an undrilled and tapped Anaconda, you can drill and tap just one 640 hole and do the installation. Here's our full-size Anaconda mount, and you can use any scope arrangement that you like on this scope mount. There's no weight limitations. Our old Cana mount, C-A-N-A-M-N-T, is for up to 2019 production date. The new mount, CANAMNT-2, is for 2020 and newer revolvers. Thanks for watching our video.